Do you want to become a millionaire? What about a billionaire? What about a trillionaire? Haha, I thought so. There once was a man named John Financial. A handsome, super tall, 5 foot 10-inch man with huge 10-inch pythons, and wore a green suit. Why green, you ask? What colour are leaves? What colour is cash? Haha, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. John Financial was more than a financial guru. He possessed the power of Goku. He knew how to cut through the hearts of business leaders and dominate CEOs. If John told you to invest in Bitcoin, you will invest in Bitcoin or John will own your home tomorrow. Legally. John Financial started out as most do, working a 9-to-5 job. Working for a boss that made him take a lunch break in a closet in the pitch dark. The type of boss we all have. One that makes us wash our hands in the toilet because it saves on the water bill. The type of boss that makes you take out a mortgage loan in your own name, yet your boss lives in it. John learned everything he now knows about cash from his boss named Bucky Cash. John learned the ins and outs of how money worked by watching his boss work so hard each and every day. Watching his boss Bucky simply laying on a couch, sleeping every day at work. It taught John that money doesn't sleep, but I must make money while I sleep and others work like donkeys in the hot sun. One day, while John Financial was shining his boss's shoes, Bucky spit in John's face and said, "Put your back into it." A light bulb went off in John's head, but John knew this light bulb, well, he wouldn't have to pay utility companies to use this light. I want to make other people put their back into it while I spit on other people in the process, John thought. So John began studying every book that had ever been printed on how to grow cash. Well, of course, become a farmer, he mused. Farmers grow crops from the ground that can then be sold to the masses at whatever price I decide to sell it for. But I don't want to put my back into it. I got it. I'll make false promises to people to help tend the fields by telling them they will share in the profits. But I'll never sign an agreement, and once I become profitable, I'll hire new labour that I can afford. And so John began doing so, and with great success. He grew every crop known to man in his little 2-acre backyard. John would spend most of his time sleeping on the couch while his so-called business partners broke their backs in the fields, labouring in the sun. The day had finally come. Harvest time. The time of year John had been dreaming of for months. No, literally, John would have dreams of the harvest time while he slept on the couch every day, while his business partners were creating his dreams. Now was the easy part. All John had to do was take his crops to the local farmer's market, mark up his price to the max, and rip people off for profits. As he set up his booth, it seemed as though no one was taking any interest in his crops. Other booths seemed to have masses of people begging for their crops. Why were his crops any different? Oh, John's crops were burned-looking, bruised and gross, almost rotten-looking. John didn't realize that he had to make his crops appear appetizing. He never stored his crops in barns or cooling rooms. So, he did the best thing anyone would do. He got edible paint and began to paint his crops to make them pop out. He painted his apples blood red, his sweet potatoes royal purple, his watermelon he painted bright green. And he added artwork on the crops and used that as a selling point. He said these crops grew with art on them from the ground. John claimed he was one of the first farmers to discover this technique. It worked. John sold every crop that had been grown. The masses drew in so much he ran an auction on his crops and sold his crops like he was selling the Mona Lisa painting. So began John's journey to becoming the world's first trillionaire.